Hey, herd watchers. Just pulling off the shoulder here. So I wanted to take a minute. I've been listening to talk radio today and getting a little more insight on our healthcare repeal and replace problem. Starting to get a better feel for what exactly is going on at the moment. But, you know, it's funny. I spent time over the weekend sort of like, I don't know, I do this at times because I'm so fascinated in the media and the way the media is covering Trump. And I went back and watched pretty much most of the ABC coverage of the election night. And it's just so fascinating to watch the emotions as it slowly crept up on them that there was a reasonable chance that Donald Trump was going to put up a fight and then he was going to win. But if you look at the first hour of that coverage, and there's a bunch of YouTube links out there that have the coverage without commercials. It's so funny because the first hour was they really all thought Hillary was going to win. And it was like, oh, she ran a great ground game. And, you know, it's just awesome the way she reached out to voters. And, you know, she just was so likable and personable. And then like 3 hours later, it's like, and here's how Hillary Clinton screwed it up and whatever. And it was like, and in the middle of all that pain and horror, they came to some truths that they've since abandoned. You know, it was like in their moment of shock, they were honest. And they talked about how she was unlikable, and they talked about how, you know, the working class voter was for Donald Trump, and they talked about how maybe they had missed something. And it was only until like 2 days later that they all coalesced around the cognitive dissonance that is the Russians hacked the election nightmare that they think is going to be a real thing. And it's starting to become clear to me that I think Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch's conversation on the tarmac was maybe not about Hillary Clinton's Benghazi problem. I think it was to get the inside scoop on whatever the surveillance on the Trump team had come up with to that point vis-a-vis Russia, so that they could try and make something happen out of this. Because at that point, Hillary was also getting hammered for her ties to Russia. You know, she utterly failed at state to keep the Russians contained, and she gave them a bunch of uranium, and Bill has taken a bunch of money from the Russians, and there are bank ties and massive ties through the Clinton Foundation. So Hillary had a growing Russia problem, and there was a massive DNC problem, and I think it seemed like the answer to their prayers to try and paint this as a Russian Trump conspiracy. But of course that story never held water. There's never been any compelling evidence of Russian involvement in the DNC hacks, and in fact there's more and more information that it was an inside whistleblower. And now that Trump is cleaning house at the FBI and Justice, we're going to see more and more information come out about what wiretapping and surveillance may have been going on. And I don't think this is going away. I happen to think that we're facing a Whitewater-esque problem for Obama and maybe Watergate level Obama problem. I think he's cooked. I thought he was going to be a major force, but I think he's going to get his ass handed to him and go away. So anyway, that's that. But I'm watching the coverage, and I'm struck again by how fundamentally cowardly the Hillary Clinton campaign was. And that was obviously emblematic of Hillary Clinton herself. But when you watch the reporters talking about what was going on over at the sort of what was going on at the Javits Center, the one thing that they kept sort of mentioning over and over and over was, you know, oh, there are no staffers around. Everybody disappeared about an hour ago. So for an hour to an hour and a half, after it was clear that things were going bad, rather than have the balls to sort of go out there and commiserate with these people who they had asked to give their hearts, who they had asked for the hearts of, the Hillary Clinton staffers just retreated and ran away. And you had the Javits Center packed with people who had no guidance, no support system, no information, and no contact with their campaign or their candidate. They were left entirely on their own. And I think during that time, Hillary Clinton's staff was attempting to keep Hillary Clinton from a complete meltdown. Now, we have good information from people who are on our Secret Service detail and people at the White House staff that Hillary Clinton doesn't deal with disappointment well. She screams, she yells, she throws things. There might be some drinking. And given that she had repeated seizures, and there was obviously a lot of medication happening during the campaign, one wonders if she had gotten upset enough to maybe have a seizure or some sort of medical incident. She certainly had probably some significant emotional incident. There might have been yelling, throwing, and drinking, and did it take her entire staff to contain her? Were they out there doing damage control and left her worshipers, and I'll use that term because people at the Javits Center are certainly qualified, were Hillary Clinton worshipers just sort of left on their own as an afterthought? Because clearly Hillary never cared about them to begin with. And in their time of maximum need, no one in the Hillary Clinton campaign gave a crap about them. And then John Podesta comes out in the most facile, ridiculous way, go home, she's not done. And even then, the focus was on Hillary. We're so proud of her. She's done so much. We're here for her. And that was it. That's that zombie-like, all for her, we're with her kind of thing. That was their whole vibe. Contrasted with Donald Trump, who, I'm here for you. Hillary's like, you're here for me. She, it was her turn. And Trump's point was, it was your turn. It's our turn. Anyway, rewatch that part of the coverage. I think you'll find what I'm saying to be fairly obvious. Now on to healthcare. I said the other day in a video, there's a lot of sausage that goes into these things, but I'm slowly coming around to the belief that we should do what we can through reconciliation and then push hard to get the other two prongs done. And assuming that Trump comes through, that reconciliation does what it's supposed to and starts to ease the burden of Obamacare, and then our guy at Health and Human Services does all the regulatory stuff he needs to roll back Obamacare, and then we can pass a new bill, I think this is going to wind up being brilliant strategy. But if we get stuck halfway through this rollback, come 2018, we're doomed. And there's danger there. But there's a lot of danger in passing nothing and hanging all of our hopes on passing a bill that we need 60 votes to pass and that they can hold us up on forever. So I kind of see the point. And as much as it pains me to do a half measure right now, and as much as I'm leery of anything that Paul Ryan agrees to, this might be the way to do it. This might be. You might just start stuffing the sausage into the case from where you are. And we'll see how that pans out. It'll be interesting to see how the media covers it. The media's been doing everything they can to scream their full heads off. But again, fewer and fewer of the people I talk to, even the moderate, even the non-Trump supporters, are really believing CNN and the New York Times and stuff about this stuff anymore. When Donald Trump asked for the resignation of 47 some odd justices and CNN tried to spill this as a bloodbath and it was a nightmare and unprecedented abuse of power, I know a lot of Hillary supporters who went, hey, didn't Bill get rid of 59 or 90 some odd, and didn't Obama get rid of a bunch? And they're like, the bias is getting so crazy that even the people on the inside of the echo chamber are having a very hard time just sucking it up and running along with it. And that's interesting. Pardon my pretzel. The cognitive pretzel crisp, I might add. Significantly fewer carbs than a full-on pretzel. But yeah, so it's very interesting to see the way that is playing out. It's very interesting to see what's going on on social media as the sort of the Trump forces continue to hold the upper hand. I think the sheer value of what they did to the Shia LaBeouf "He Will Not Divide Us" thing. Short rundown for those of you who may not have heard the story. So Shia LaBeouf of Transformers fame, and some of you may remember him from an Indiana Jones film. Best known for following Megan Fox's butt around on screen for a while. He has gone crazy. Fame went to his head and things have gotten very weird, but he's a huge sort of anti-Donald Trump guy. And he put up a camera in the middle of, on the wall outside of an art gallery, and he painted the words, "He will not divide us," above it. And the idea was he was going to live stream this 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days for 4 years. And it was just going to be a long-form zombie-like montage of people coming up and going, "He will not divide us. He will not divide us." And it sort of gathered a bunch of its own sort of Hillary hippies, and the Bernie bots were running around. And then inevitably, some Trump folks found it. And there were some people that used the opportunity to launch their single. Other people were playing music. Pepe the Frog made a mention. But there was no violence. Though some people did order pizza and hookers to the location on the camera. But there was no violence until Shia LaBeouf himself got crazy and basically assaulted a pro-Hillary Clinton supporter who was at the event. So the museum took it down. He found some other poor idiots to put it up at their venue. Some similar stuff happened. It got taken down again. So Shia LaBeouf decided that the new form of "He Will Not Divide Us" live cam was a flag that said "He Will Not Divide Us," that he put up in a flagpole in an undisclosed location somewhere in America. And the idea was that for 3 3/4 years, this flag was going to be a sign of defiance as long as no one knew where it was. So it was a hidden sign of defiance, but very public because it was on the internet. But hidden, but public. Well, 4chan, which is sort of the cool place where stuff starts on the internet. So all the cat memes, pretty much everything that eventually makes its way to Reddit and then eventually makes its way onto 9gag, which is where sort of the bottom feeders of the internet sort of finally you get what's cool erupting out of the water fountain for the normals on 9gag and on, wherever. But way down in 4chan, they found this flag and they decided to find out where it was. Now, the term that 4chan uses for itself, and particularly the subboard where this comes from, it's the term that's being used is weaponized autism. And that's going to offend some of you. But look, these guys are just obsessive about it. They happen at the moment to be pro-Donald Trump, but look, they could have just been as easily pro-whatever. They triangulated this flag based on Shia LaBeouf sightings on TMZ, the position of the sun and the time of day, the audio stream coming through, so they were listening to the frogs to identify the region of the country, and they spotted airplanes going over the flagpole on the live stream and matched that in real time to airplane traffic supplied on the internet, and they located this flagpole within an area. And then some guys who happen to live there went out there and started driving around honking their horn, and people on the live stream would listen for the horn, and they eventually found the flagpole. And then during the night, some guys went and took down the "He Will Not Divide Us" flag and put up a Donald Trump "Make America Great" hat and a Pepe the Frog t-shirt in what might be one of the most glorious incidents of trolling on a major political topic in the last 30 years. So there we go. Eventually it got taken down, and Shia LaBeouf appears to have personally begun guarding an empty flagpole in the middle of nowhere. And there's a strong possibility that a frame of drone footage that made its way down to 4chan is actually night vision footage of Shia LaBeouf sitting in an open field with a baseball bat, guarding an empty flagpole to prove how powerless Donald Trump is or something. And it's brilliant. This is what Hollywood is being reduced to. I'm amused by the whole thing. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and I will catch you another time.